Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us this morning for Portal TV number 3. We're glad you could join us. Today, we are looking at customizing the portal. So really, I guess, part of getting the most out of the portal is to customize it, the tabs and tables, to see what you want to see.
That's right.
And to make it easier for you to view the key information that's important for your business.
That's right.
This morning with me I have Sean Tansley, Manager in Access. He will be driving us today, and we're going to do something a little bit different this morning for our third webinar. We're going to do the whole thing live in the portal, so you won't see us. It's probably a good thing. You won't see us in a couple of minutes, and you will be seeing Sean in the actual portal going through examples. We thought the best way to demonstrate the various ways you can customize the portal is to look at each element, vehicle configurations, application tracker, etc., and to give 2 examples in each area as to how that section could be customized. So without further ado, we might pop into the portal itself. All right, so hopefully you can see Sean logged into the portal in front of us. We are going to start with vehicle configurations as an obvious starting point. And Sean, I believe we're going to start by creating a tab to show how many oversized, overmass vehicles are in the portal for that user. Do you want to take us through the steps?
That's right, Callum. So I've taken the liberty early to essentially populate a few of the configurations that you might see sitting in amongst your actual account file, I guess you could call it, as itself. So as you'll notice, it's identical as we've not normally got. We still have all of our certain tabs there, our home tab, information tab, all the things to do with our account, our profiles and our logout and so on. So on this occasion today, we're going to be using the vehicle configuration, which you can see I'm highlighting here. Once we've clicked on the vehicle configurations, you'll see that I've actually populated quite a large number here of different vehicles. Now, the default is always at the account level tab. So what we initially had at the start was we had to make a determination of what was going to be the most appropriate view for the user at the start. And that would be essentially to have everything there ready and available for you to use. So the idea behind these extra enhancements and functionalities by adding these tabs is that you might have particular departments or sub-departments within your business that only want to look at particular parts of vehicle combinations and so on.
Right. So can you show us the options that we have to customize this table?
So at the moment you'll see that everything's there. We already have a number of different kind of filters or configuration sets that we can search by. But what we do here have is what we've got as a default archive. Now at the moment, because I haven't created anything or utilised particular vehicles, there's nothing sitting in the archive section there. But what we can do is we can actually add additional tabs and we can customise those.
Understood.
So what we're going to do at the moment, we're going to just basically focus on how we can filter the particular vehicle combinations we're looking at ourselves from the main screen. So by doing this, we're actually able to go over here to our tab options. We click on our tab options using the left click button, and then we select change columns. Now the change columns will then populate up a new window essentially. What it does is it shows the current filters and fields that are there ready and available. You can maneuver those fields around, which we'll show you later on about an order of preference and so on. But what we're actually going to do on this page, we actually want to add another field in here. So we're going to go to the column selector. And what will happen is it will open up a number of different options available for you.
So there's actually a lot of things you can add or take away depending on how much or how little you might want or need to see.
That's right. So at the moment you'll see there is a number of different fields already selected there. Now as I said, this is what we call the account level tab. So these are the default fields that we felt were the most common I guess you could say, or the defaulted appropriate fields available for the operators as they log in. So on this occasion, what we're going to do, we're going to search by OSM type. So we want to add that field to our standard tab page.
Currently it's not. The ticks indicate all the ones that have been selected.
So that's right. So the ticks at the moment indicate the ones that are already showing on that main home page for the vehicle configurations. And by just enabling or ticking the OSM type and then heading down here to the bottom to the apply, left clicking on the apply, and you'll now notice that here on the right hand side it has added this little awesome field available for us.
Excellent.
Now, we can reorientate that, but I will show that a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
It's mostly today about just showing how you can add these things. As per most things, if you were to use, say, Microsoft Excel and so on, unless you specifically add a column in a certain place, it will always add it to the left-hand or to the right-hand side.
For sure.
So once we've added this little field here, we're able to then select a number of options using the drop-down arrow. It will then allow you to sort by your different application types, either being oversize only, over mass only, or oversize and over mass.
Great.
Now, you can select all three as a default, or you may select oversize only, or you may select over mass only. But this occasion, we just essentially want to see any of the oversized mass vehicle configurations.
Yep.
We click on it, so it's highlighted. It will highlight in blue to show that you've actually initiated that one, puts a little tick in the box next to it, and then we hit apply. Once we've hit apply, it then filters.
Only oversized over mass come up. Great.
Now, you will notice, however, that it will also include special purpose vehicle combinations that we've got here.
Yes.
And that is because essentially these are Class 1 vehicles. These are oversized and overmass vehicle configurations.
That makes sense. So our second example then, we're actually going to add a tab to show all Class 2 vehicles, and then make that tab available to all account users.
That's right. So if you were looking to try and revert back to that original stage, what you would essentially do then is just revert back to either untick and apply, or my favourite is always just to reset.
Reset. Okay.
And reset will take it back to that original page. So now, when we want to create our customizable tab, here's where we can start it from.
Excellent.
So you'll notice up on here on the right-hand side towards the screen, we've got this lovely little Add Tab button.
Add Tab, okay.
Okay, so when we left-click on this, same as before, almost as if we were adding that extra column to the
options
page.
come up. Yep.
The options come up. Now, you can customize this particularly to have which or what way you like.
So you can call it whatever.
You could call it Sean's B-doubles or Callum's MacTrans support or however you wished at the time. So on this occasion, as part of the example, we're using Class 2. Oh dear, I seem to have typed.
Class 2. Very straightforward. Great.
Very straightforward, very simple, very easy. You can obviously create multiple tabs of different vehicle configurations, Class 2, Class 3, or you can even create even further detail depending on how far you want to go into it.
Right.
So on this occasion, we're actually going to name the tab as Class 2. Now, the column selector itself is how we want to sort this. So every time we want to click on this customized tab, we want particular vehicle information to display straight away. We don't want to constantly be filtering it. So what we're going to do is we're now going to go into the column selector here, which we've already got open, and we also want to select the vehicle config. Now, don't be confused here. We already have a couple of vehicle configs in here, but what we're looking at is all the different vehicle details here. So you have vehicle configurations here.
Yep.
We're going to click on that one. We're then going to apply. Now, you'll notice that it's taking us back to the original page at the start.
Yes.
But you will also notice up here that we have
there's
this additional tab. Class 2. Now, as you'll notice, it has reverted back to the original filters and fields that we already had. Now, because we've added that additional vehicle config, we're able to select that now.
I see.
Okay, so what we want to do is essentially we may want to search via, for instance, B-double.
B-double, yep.
So we would just put in B/double, hit apply, and it would only show the B-double configurations that we've got. Now, part of this enhancement and the ability to have this tab is we can actually save this at what we call the account level.
Yes, and so my understanding of the account level tab is that you as an administrator, once you've developed this new tab, you can make that tab available to all other users within your account.
That's right. So in order to do that, so essentially that we always have this B-double filter and fields always continually show up, we would then go to our tab options, and we would then move down to Save to Account Level tab, click on to Save Account Level tab, and then every single time we revert back to all the additional tabs, it would automatically store that previous filtered information there available.
Excellent. Great.
It's just one of those things that just kind of helps you manage your fleet a little bit better for the application process.
For sure. And I can see those vehicles in the table view as well as the picture view.
That's right. Yeah, you can change it from picture view to table view. Essentially, what we can do is we can go down to table mode, and it'll essentially give what we call a list view or a table view. And by clicking on the Class 2 tab, it will do the same. So if you have multiple vehicle or multiple V-double combinations of different masses and lengths and things like that, you'll be able to essentially sub-filter those yet again depending on what columns you add in your column selector.
Okay, so let's move on to Application Tracker and have a few examples of Application Tracker.
Right, so as you notice, we're still in our customer account, and our next step down below the vehicle configurations is our Application Tracker.
I think the first example we were going to look at was to create a view to show all permit applications submitted in the last 30 days. So this is a common request that we've had, you know, what's current, what's recent.
That's right.
How would we go about that?
So it's very similar to the process before. So as part of having that user functionality, we want to have so that it's very similar no matter what kind of different level or section of your actual customer account you're in, you still have that same usability and process. Yeah. So same things here. We've made sure that part of the fields that we've selected are already there and ready to be ready for your operational aspects. So part of this is we'll go to the submitted tab as part of this, and there'll be submitted date. So you'll notice over here that we've got all these different kinds that we've gone through, and you'll see underneath here we've got submitted date.
Oh, yes.
Now, you'll notice when we have a drop down, it brings up our filter options.
Yes.
Now, you do have a number of different ways that you can utilize this. We can bring up another drop down box. We'll have some pre-populated filters.
Oh, I see. Some common options.
That's right. So some common options there and available. So what you might want to see is any of the applications that have applied for in the last 30 days.
Yeah.
So on this case, we'll click on last 30 days. We'll then select apply. And unfortunately, on this occasion, there's been no applications in the last 30 days.
But that's okay. That process is pretty straightforward.
That's okay. That process is pretty straightforward. Now, if you, for instance, just really quickly wanted to reset that, you would then click on that, click back to the reset.
And that removes.
And it would remove any of the previous filters that you already had applied.
Great. So let's, for the second example now, we're going to create another tab similar to what we did with vehicle configurations. This time we're going to create a tab to show only the amended permit applications, and then once again make that an account level view tab.
That's right, Colin. So you'll notice that we already actually have this option available here under the application where it lists everything. So you could specifically, you know, essentially go through and highlight that the way that you want. But what we want to do is we don't want to have the ability where that we have to always search for that function. That might be a filter that always stays on there and it can become annoying. But it is still the same functionality that we already offered in the vehicle configurations. So essentially we're going to add tab. You'll notice that we already have those options selected under application, and we're just going to name this one as amend. We're then going to roll back down and hit apply. You'll notice that we now have our amend personalized tab there, and instead we're now going to go down to our amend permit, major, and amend permit, and hit apply, and that will show all of our amend applications.
Excellent.
Now, same thing applies here. We would then ensure that if we wanted to have it as an account level tab, we would save that, so that way it would show up every time. Now, if I quickly roll back to the vehicle configurations, you'll notice that the Class 2 is still there.
Class 2.
And if we go back to the application tracker, you'll notice that the amend permit's still there.
So a lot of this is about creating some simple shortcuts to get to the information you need as quickly as possible. And if you think as an administrator that those shortcuts are going to be useful for everyone, it's very easy to make that an account level tab.
That's right, absolutely. It's all about trying to managing your applications and your business process as best you can using the resources we've made available to you.
But you mentioned earlier you were going to take us through how to change the column order and width sort of thing. Is that a fairly, should we use this as an example?
So I can use this as an example. This would be a perfect time to use an example. So what we can do is we can customize this amend tab itself. Now, you would be able to, the same options here, utilizing the tab options. Now, all of this is the same as I was saying before. When we go into the column selector, you notice that all these fields have now appeared that are part of that personalised tab.
Yep, so that's from left to right is now from top to bottom?
That's right. Yep. So now if we had the inclination that we wanted to essentially filter that so that we could see that particular information up front, it might be the due date first, but for instance on this occasion we want to make it so that it is essentially that application. We can either click and drag the order itself straight to the top, or you can actually reorientate it by actually just moving them up and down.
The arrows up and down, okay.
You can also, as a quick response, you might not want to see these as part of that. So, for instance, you might not want to see the vehicle componentry. You just want to see the amend permit type and the status, and you could remove one of these.
Great, so just have the key information that you want and have it in the order that you want it.
That's correct.
And you're also talking about even the column width is customisable, is that right?
I believe
that the numbers on the...
That's right. So the column width themselves, I'll just jump back into that one. So what it does is it allows you to display the number of, I guess you could say, lodgements per page. So essentially, we do have that it's capped, so that you can only reach a certain amount. So if you only want to see, say, 75 per page, it would only show 75 of them. Or you could have it all the way up to the maximum itself of 500.
Okay, so width of columns, and I guess changing the width would allow you to add additional columns or just have your core ones nice and easily accessible.
That's right. So once I've hit apply, you'll notice now that I've actually shortened because I've removed one of the fields.
Yep.
I've also moved the application to the front, and it's now a little bit more readily accessible for your needs.
Perfect. So another good couple of examples out of Application Tracker. We should now move on to Case Tracker, and again, let's do a couple of simple examples of how you might customise the Case Tracker element within the portal. First example, Sean, can you show us within Case Tracker how to create a view to show all open cases awaiting information from the customer? So obviously this is a useful one to have if you want to be able to quickly see applications that are waiting for information from the company. This would allow you to do so.
That's right. So as I said, it's the same process as before, essentially. We try to keep that same kind of look and feel and taste to it.
So we're
into Case Tracker itself. We've selected it. Now, the same thing as you'll notice here, we do have a number of already pre-populated tabs that are available for you. And we will go through customising one of those tabs. So at the moment we've got open. So that's essentially any kind of application that you've got that's in a status that's open and available.
Yep.
Now what we're trying to do here is essentially we're looking at all the applications where we're only seeking for that customer information. So it's where either the road manager or the regulator is seeking additional information as part of that process for your application.
Okay.
So you'll notice over here we've got our case status.
Yes.
Now, I would like to highlight here that you see this little filter icon that we have there. Now, we can click on that filter, and it will filter it in alphabetical form and reorder it should it need to be done so.
Yep.
Now, not all of the fields that you can select have this functionality. Some of them specifically there as just an identifier. But, however, should you want to essentially quickly look at all your finalising outcomes first, you could just reorientate it, it will bring it all up. Okay. But on this occasion what we're going to do is we're going to select a specific filter, we're going to reset, and what that'll do, it may take a little bit of time, and it will show absolutely every application that you've lodged.
And we're going to look for customer information required.
That's right. So what we're going to do is we're going to click back on our drop-down window, which will then give us all of our options available. Now we want customer information required, which is being assessed, which essentially would mean that as part of the facilitator's role of assessing your application, additional information is requested from the applicant. Okay. The other would be that customer information required from consent purposes and customer information required for finalising. Consent purposes may be in order to that a road manager has requested a route assessment.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Or that they wish to confirm a route.
Yep.
Or offer an alternative route. Finalising may be as part of it's been identified that we require third-party information prior to essentially issuing a permit.
So those three options together, once you click apply, that will show us all the open cases awaiting information from the customer.
That's right. So I'll left click on apply. and it shows all the open cases where we were receiving some customer information. And you'll notice here on the case progress that you'll see that it's moved through all the different stages. So one's at the initial stage, a few of them there are part of the being assessed, and some are towards the end.
Great. So second example then, we're going to create a tab, so that's perfect. That's a very useful filter. To add a tab, let's create a tab to show the case progress for all cases being processed.
Right, so I've just reset that just to take that back to that astronomical view that we saw before.
Yes, everything in L.
And as I said, it is the same process for every single level of section that you've got here.
Right,
we want to add a tab.
Great.
And we want to name this tab
Case Progress.
So case progress. And on this occasion, what we're going to do, we want to see the case progress, durations, permit case number, and permit case status, submitted date, and so on and so forth. Now, a number of these are already pre-selected as part of being that large default view. So what we're going to do, we're going to go through and we're going to select a large number of these. So application type, we don't necessarily need to see it on this occasion because we actually want to see the cases themselves.
Yes.
So we're looking for the case number. We're looking for the permit case number, which we'll make sure that we leave in there. We also want to have a look at the durations itself. So you'll notice down here there's a whole lot of other details in here that we can apply. Now, you may find it a little confusing at first because we have broken these up. Now, the reason we've broken these up is as part of the application process of where you would find this information as part of the application process itself. So permit case number, which we've already selected. We're also looking for case status. Now, personally, I also like to look for my own customer reference number.
Oh, yeah.
So we want to also include the submitted date, which we've already got there. We're not worried about the submitted method this time around. We do want the application number in by itself. And we also are looking for our durations. Now, durations is a big part because it essentially indicates where the application's sitting, whether it being with the road manager or with the applicant or with them themselves. So at the moment, we are just going to try and find this one from here. And as you can see, case workflow details is right down the bottom, and we've got durations. Apologies for doing that. I seem to be half copying halfway through and trying not to make the screen move too much. So as we've selected all of these, I'll hit apply. And as you can see, we've populated our own customizable tab there that has all the valid information that we're seeking. Right. Now again, we want to ensure that if we want to have this as a frequent level, we would say this is at account level tab. And that way, as I quickly flick through back, you'll notice that we still have our class 2, we still have our amend, and we still now also have our case process.
So if we then want to filter that new tab to show all the current cases being processed, so we then filter the case status, is that right?
That's right. So what we would need to do is, so essentially we would want to have a look at the applications where consent has been requested and hit apply. And as you can see there, these are all the current open cases where consent has been requested, and it indicates the duration with each of the different parties. Orange being road manager, blue being the regulator, green being the applicant.
So if I added to that, in addition to that filter, if I included new, assigned, being assessed, the customer info required, basically everything listed before the delegated stuff, I'd get the full picture of all the cases, all the case progress is being processed at some point in the chain.
That's right. So at any point in time, you can go through and change these. Now, even if we were to apply this now, as is, and we left it the way it was, and then suddenly we reverted back or logged out of the system and came back in, because we haven't saved these particular filters that we've just added now, it would only revert back to the original that we had there before.
Excellent. So I know that you've shown us a couple of times now how to make these new tabs into an account level tab. Can we go the opposite way? Can you actually show us how to delete a personal tab.
That's right. So what I'll do is we can actually just use this one for instance. Now it is the exact same process as saving as it is to delete. So we then click on the tab options again. We work our way down to the, whoops, sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Revert to account level tab. Hit yes. It'll take it back to all the original filters that we had on previously before. And now we'll hit delete account tab. And it'll always prompt you to ensure that, are you sure that this is what you would like to do? We hit yes. And that personalised tab is now removed.
Perfect. Well, let's move on to Tasktracker. So again, a couple of quick examples, and I think people are getting the idea that a lot of these are using a very similar process to get to the information, both in terms of filtering that information or adding tabs, which is great. If we go into Tasktracker, obviously this is sort of an internal-facing element. We see who's been assigned what. The first example, and again this will be a common one, so I'm going on holiday and I need to see all the tasks due while I am on leave.
That's right.
How might I go about that?
So what we want to do is essentially Tasktracker itself, depending on the number of users you have available, is open and available to particularly anyone. So at the moment we're at that administrative level where we can create all these different account level tabs. We can save and make personalised ones. Essentially what would happen is, say for instance a customer information request would come through from a road manager or from essentially the regulator itself as part of the application process. You would get notified of the task. If you were the person that has essentially lodged the application, it would send a task back to you itself. So the Tasktracker itself is already filtered by a number of things. So you notice here that it's got My Tasks.
My Tasks, yeah.
Now that is one of the defaults that we've set up already, so that essentially once you've logged in, it will indicate that you are the user that's logged in. When you click on My Tasks, it will only show your particular tasks.
And so obviously if I am on holiday and I want to see those tasks due for that period of time, I am filtering by the dates of my vacation.
That's right. You would use the filter by the dates itself. You could also filter by the initiator, whether it came from the regulator or the customer or the road manager. You can also, depending on what you wish to look at, you can also change users. So if you have another user within your system, say for Callum for instance, it may not show up. But essentially, there's a number of different users in there that you can also either type in or use as a drop-down themselves. These are just some people that we've just used and created randomly. There's also portal training and things like that. So we'll just hit apply. Now, unfortunately, they don't have any there. But essentially, same deal goes here for the way that you can filter these fields from the main screens, either using one of these tabs that are already pre-customized, or again, you can create your own.
So, and this leads on nicely to the second example. This is probably the example that my boss would use. Creating a view to show all outstanding notifications for your team.
That's right.
So what is due? So
essentially what we want to do is we want to, again, add a tab. We're going to customize the name of that tab.
Team notifications.
Team. I'm just going to put team note.
Yes.
This one just to make it a little bit shorter. And what I want to do is I want to have a look by flags. Now, the way that the system is set up is we have a lovely different array of colours of flags. Red flags essentially means that it's kind of universal that there is something urgent or there's an issue there. So you have red flags and blue flags and things like that. Some of these we use internally, but usually red flag is what we have as an outward-facing kind of identifier that action needs to take place. So what we want to do is we want to go through all the different kind of fields here. So, for instance, we're going to have a look at the status. That's one of the big ones we want to check out. We also want to have a look at the start date and the end date. So that would be down along part of the activity and payment duration. So you'll notice that some of these have already been pre-populated.
Yes, as common options.
Part of the common options available. So the status, yes, we definitely want the status in there. Subject, absolutely, because we need to know what this is actually about, if it's an inquiry, or if it's something that we have to perform, or we're waiting on information from someone else. The type, we want the due dates, that's for sure, and the red flags. Now, I do apologise. Flags, you'll notice it's just this lovely little workflow details here that we're going to click, and let's just put something a little bit different in there, just for something. We'll put in permit number.
Correct.
Oh, there it is there. I've already added it. So
We apply.
I'm going to hit apply. And as you notice, it has populated that already.
Right.
So same goes here. Unfortunately, there's no information there because we actually don't physically have any tasks available, because as we can tell, this lovely business is right on target and right on top of all their tasks that they've had available. But essentially what would happen is there would be a number of populated tasks that would populate along here, and you could have that for particular teams. I know myself through the access department, I oversee and look after a number of different classes of vehicle applications that come through. Yep. And I have customised my own by individual teams.
Great. All right then, how about we move on to the big one, the permit library.
Permit library. So as you'll notice, again, everything's still located conveniently on the left-hand side. It will always take you to the same locations, and again, it will take you to a pre-populated set of tabs that are available. Open obviously means it's a permit that's open, it's active. Inactive means essentially it's expired, or you've cancelled it, or it's no longer required.
So I'll give you a simple example to start off with. How do I go about simply viewing all current permits?
Right, so what we would do is, you'll notice that we've got all these lovely fields there and available, and we've got our workflow state of new, permit, and so on, all these different kind of things that were there. So what we want to see is essentially any of the permits that are issued, and hit apply. Now, obviously, most of these cases are still sitting out with a road manager. We haven't had any conditions or consents come back as yet, so we haven't been able to apply anything. But essentially what we want to do is we want to have it so that the ability that when this action comes up, it will list all the permits that are ready and there and available and currently active for you.
Great. And we can, similar to the other sections, we can add a tab. I can see the...
You can certainly add a tab. We can add a tab over there, and we can customise it as however you wish. You can actually customise it so that we can customise it by expiry date. So we can actually go through and see what kind of events and things. We can actually see permits by rear overhang, if you wanted to see how many permits that you've got with excessive rear overhang.
Okay, yeah.
So you may be able to then find a combination that will allow for that particular overhang of the item that you're moving. Laden length of vehicles, you may want to be able to sort by that and work out exactly what permits you have that come off an approved network for a particular length of vehicle. Yep. So on this occasion, what we might do is we might create a tab, and we're going to call it expire in 42 days.
So you're looking at getting a bit of notice.
That's right.
Yeah.
So what I want is I would like to be able to at least have 42 days notice of when these permits are going to expire.
Yes.
So what I'm going to do, expire in 42 days. Now you'll notice that we've got in the column selected these things called legacy permit numbers and current permit version. So I'd like to let you know that these legacy permit numbers relate to our old system. These are the numbers that we'll use to identify your particular permit exemption or your authorisation prior to the NHVR portal.
And I can imagine these are still probably a popular thing that customers would still want to be able to see.
That's right. So all the information that we originally had was transposed across to the portal itself. So expiry dates of permits and things like that. Unfortunately, due to the way that we've developed the system itself, not all the communications work backwards and forwards. So we're able to pull certain amounts of data like permit numbers, expiry dates, particular things, so the name holder of the permit and things like that. But specific details that were never required previously or input into the system, like a number of axles, specific vehicle configuration types and things like that, just aren't available. So on the renewal process, we will ask you for that popular information to be populated, but as part of that, you will want to see any of those legacy permit numbers that will be expiring.
Makes sense.
So we add a legacy permit number, current permit version. Now this will be for any of those permits that have already been issued and stored within the actual portal itself. So anything since September 2017 where you would have received a lovely little new permit number and your applications themselves would have had a case number would have a lovely little R1, V1 next to it.
Yes.
This is where those permit versions are there and available for. So we'll add permit versions, and then what we'll also is add workflow state. So this could be if you're essentially already in the process of renewing this application. So what we're going to do, workflow state's already clicked. I'm just going to untick event because essentially it's not kind of applicable for what we're trying to show here at the moment. We'll hit apply. It'll populate this lovely little window and you'll notice that all these fields are there ready and available.
Great.
Now, permit end date, same as what we had before. We have a number of filterable options available. 42 days, 21 days, 7 days, and so on and so forth. So the 42 days, hit apply. As you'll notice, nothing will come up, but essentially that gives you that lovely little 6-week window that we seek for as a part of your reminder that comes out as part of the portal itself to let you know essentially, hey, this permit's expiring in 6 weeks. It may be a good idea for you to have a look at the application and see if you wish to renew it, or if you would like to let it lapse, that's fine, you can do so as well.
It's about being informed, isn't it, and having plenty of lead time in to make those decisions.
That's right, and if your permit is one of those older legacy permits, what we want to have is as much time as possible to populate all that route information into the system. So next time round, it's a much smoother and more efficient process.
Excellent. Now, finally, we're going to look at the reports element. We're not going to customise this so much as get a bit of a view, a navigation around the account dashboard and the user dashboard. So can you quickly look at, what are the benefits of these dashboards?
Okay, so essentially the reports themselves offers a dashboard, and the dashboard itself gives you a number of options. Now, the account dashboard itself will take you to essentially a slide performance. Now, we utilise this in the access department internally. I actually utilise this myself. We have a one that goes into further detail that breaks it down by class of vehicle, particular types of applications and so on. Now, what we'll have here is this will show you a general overview of where your applications are at.
For the whole account. So all the users, all the information there is on the one dashboard. And this is the business's performance. This is
the business's performance. So at the moment, what we've got is we have one new application in there. We have 5 in total in assessment. You'll notice that we have a split up here between the green and the blue. That means there's 4 applications that are actually being assessed, and one of the applications is with the customer. Now, I would like to show you something that I quite utilise every day, and that is when I click on this, it actually shows the applications themselves.
Shortcut straight to those applications.
It shortcuts straight to those applications, and if you click on it, it will take you to that particular application.
So very handy for a manager to shortcut, go straight to the important information.
That's right. So there are a number of functionalities that you can use within this system to kind of shortcut and make a little bit more efficiencies and get some more time out of your day, so to speak.
So if you want to investigate from the dashboard, you can basically click straight in to get more information.
That's right. It won't allow you obviously to flip backwards and forwards or create custom tabs and things like that, but as a general overview for your business for the day, you are able to do that. Now, I would like to show you that once you have clicked on that case, it will take you back to that case tracker. See how it's lovely there highlighted?
Yep.
So whatever function that you perform out of this dashboard, being it now part of the finalisation, and we'll click on that particular vehicle, again, it takes you straight back to that case tracker.
Easy. Yeah, so that's good. That's an essential one for an administrator, I would have thought.
That's right. And the other best one is that if you're part of the finance team and you're doing a reconciliation against a particular credit card or account, you're able to do a payment record. And you can do pull the report out and do that reconciliation against your credit account.
So there's also a user dashboard, isn't there?
There is a user dashboard. There is one itself, and that is literally by the user themselves. So you have the account dashboard, which covers everyone within the business. So if you're a large business entity that has maybe 4 or 5 different depots amongst the entirety of Australia, it will show you how the business is doing overall. If you're looking at a user level, so it might be myself just working out of a depot in Cairns, it will go to my user level dashboard, and it will show exactly the users that are available, how many applications they have in use, so on and so forth. Now, this is also available to us in the regulator view, and this is how we're able to manage our resources for applying across different parts of classes and applications.
I can imagine this would also be useful for an administrator if they were checking possibly users who had left the company, or might need to be a quick way to see who has access.
That's right, and you might be able to find out, essentially you're looking at an application through that general dashboard, and you would like to see, a particular person may be a little bit snowed under and wondering why, and you can have a look and go, well, it's because essentially they have 99 applications in their name. So it's a good way of trying to manage your own internal resources.
Excellent. So I think we might wrap it up. I think we've covered a lot of good examples in each element for showing really the flexibility of the system to customise as much as you need to get the most out of it. You can either make the views quite simple or quite complex, maybe depending on the size of the business or the way that you operate.
That's right.
We've gone through establishing new tabs, deleting personal tabs, setting those tabs as an account level.
Yeah, filtering and customising and essentially making that, trying to get as much data you can out of the facilities and the resources that we've made available to you.
Great. Well, we hope that has been useful to folks today. If you have any follow-up questions or suggestions for our next webinar, we would highly encourage you to contact us. The best way is going to be through our dedicated email, which is events, E-V-E-N-T-S, events@nhvr.gov.au. That's events@nhvr.gov.au. You can also call us on the 1300 My NHVR, that's 1300 696 487, and we look forward to speaking to you again soon. Thank you very much.